Okay, so there was here, and then someone in the back, and then you, sir. So.
May I share personal experiences?
Yes.
Okay. So I've been interested in intentional communities since the 70s, and I'm actually sort of involved with 3 different communities right now. First, I started the group house in San Diego in 1978, which is still going on as a group house, and all 3 of them are listed on IC.org.
Okay.
Then I moved up to this area, to the Pacific Northwest, thinking I wanted to do a rural community, and I bought land near Port Townsend, and that's in the Intentional Communities Directory also, was Dragon Billy Farm. And while I was there, I couldn't get a job locally, so for a while I was working so far away that I could only come home on weekends, but I had the great blessing of being able to live with the people at Songaya before they were a co-housing community, when they were just forming. And it was very, very influential in my feelings about community. But one of the things I remember the most is like when you cook, you know, like there were the people who eat wheat, the people who didn't eat wheat, the people who ate dairy, and the people who didn't eat dairy, and how to make a dinner that accompanied, you know, that fueled everybody. And then I couldn't make a living really up on the Olympic Peninsula, so then we moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area, where I now have a place that I call San Mateo Eco Village, and we're in 2 4-unit apartment buildings, and dealing with all the things of urban living. It's struggling to live in a very expensive real estate market, and I mean, there are some things working about our community right now, some aren't, but about half, I'm the owner, my husband and I are the owners, and we, you know, about half of our people are way behind on the rent, and you can't evict them, they're your community, you know. So, you know, like, it's interesting, and now we're looking at that. Michael lives on our farm in Dragon Valley. It's been a blessing. He's sort of like a caretaker on the land, and you know, sort of trying to decide it. So I just retired from my teaching job of how much time I'll spend in the Bay Area, how much in Washington. And then actually, if I think about it, I'm also associated with an incredible community in northern Italy that I go to almost every year. You know, it's a very large.
These are butterfly community members. They go around and be a part of everything.
Yes. And I have friends
You belong to at least 10 different communities. What community is that in Italy? Is that?
Davenport.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. We'll talk some more later. Okay, so I'll come back to you as well. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a part of a forming collective right now in Beacon Hill, and there's also, I found a lot of collectives actually in Beacon Hill, and I was wondering if any of you have experience with noticing that there are a lot of collectives in a similar place, and then building trade systems with cars and food and gardening and chickens and all these things. I've just been brainstorming what would that look like, and especially with folks who are in their late 20s, early 30s, and maybe still not done hopping around the world and the country. Yeah.
2 resources right away is, I'm sure you know already, of Emma Goldman Finishing School on Beacon Hill, and that they're part of the Federation of Egalitarian Communities. So, whoa, they're urban and they're totally income sharing and land sharing. There's the Collective of Collectives, I don't know how active, and there's also a wiki, and you want to say more about it?
Yeah, so there was a thing called Close Collective Living of Seattle that was alive probably like a decade ago, and it tried to be that kind of network, and that kind of died. And then it got kind of brought back to life in the Collective of Collectives. And that was alive for like a couple years, and died maybe a year or 2 ago.
The Collective Collectives? I think it's still...
So it's like, right.
Yes.
It's still alive.
We need energy.
And basically, it's good you asked that, because I've been fostering the same kind of like, we need to get that together, so we should talk and maybe do that. There has been a kind of directory of communities of like collectives in Seattle that was put together in 2004 that I just found in a hard copy. That was like, whoa, we should do something with this. That had exactly that, like what people, like the kind of bio on each collective, what people have, what kind of skills and like materials people can share, and what kind of things they might be looking for, and shared resources ideas. And so we should do that. Let's do it.
A lot more of just grassroots groups and a lot of neighborhood sustainability groups, you know, connected now with Scallops and starting with Sustainable Ballard, have people who do do want to share their tools and who do want to do the potlucks and stuff, they might still have their own homes and they're going to, be coming from a place that we're not starting an intentional community, but I bet with just a few key contacts in your neighborhood and finding out if there's a sustainable Beacon Hill, because I'm not really sure right now, but if there is, those people are going to be ripe for, doing at least some of the projects you're excited about doing, so. Okay, there was a gentleman there, and then I want to jump over to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have one pragmatic question, which is just when you have all this invested and the people are all putting their various incomes in the community and stuff, what do you do when you have a person who's in your midst who is just unstable or they're causing like a lot of problems or something like that? I mean, have you experienced that? And, how do you deal with that? Is that a group vote or like what? And then who is the person who has to actually like help the person?
Basically, it's all butterflies and sunshine all the time.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, we have various committees, which sounds a little like the teams that Helen was talking about at Sherwood. We've had mixed success, but some success with what we call the Interpersonal Relations Committee. And there are a couple of people who actually do have experience mediating, and they've helped work out some conflicts. Now, these weren't major conflicts. What you're talking about, however, is more major, and I think that while we haven't had the good or bad fortune to experience that yet, having sort of a team in place that is prepared to work on these things so that it doesn't become both a situation of rumors and a situation of sort of hysteria among the various members where, people have their torches and their pitchforks. You don't want that. You want some kind of buffer between, the conflict and that. And I think that it's good to have sort of a small team of people in place to work on issues like that. So I can't speak to how someone might be, for example, ejected from the community, but I do know that it's important to have some procedures in place before you get to that point. That's very important.
One is prevention, screening your members, having a very clear and defined process for getting to know the person and then, accepting them as a member at the beginning. And it's going to vary from small, like single household ones where you see that person all the time, or a really big community. But yes, I totally would agree that we had something called a process team, and so they're facilitators and mediators. And
have any of you ever been in a situation where you actually had to eject a person from the community?
We had something that was a feedback. Someone would be, asked to sit and hear the community give feedback if they weren't able to accept it from a one-on-one. Like we always had a basis of trying to just directly give personal feedback. If that person has a hard time hearing you, you might have one-on-one with a third person mediator listening. If that didn't work and it was a work-related issue, it might be involving a manager or a couple of other people. And if that still didn't work, then it would become a community process for feedback, and they might be asked to make certain changes or to understand what is the problem and hop to it. And if it doesn't get better, then they would be asked to leave. But most people by that time, it gets so uncomfortable, they leave on their own. Anybody?
That's been our experience.
Yeah.
People leave on their own before it gets to that point. But
Very good question.
We had a lady who was not wanting to leave with her son, and what we were able to do was to get her permission to talk with a therapist. And so we had a three-way thing going on, and she finally was able to leave. But it took that. So
Yeah.
we understood what the situation was, and she understood that we knew that. And
Yes. It definitely means being brave about revealing how you feel and giving people feedback. That's the main thing.